Welcome to the Farm Stress Real Talk with Penn State Extension. This podcast is from the Penn State Extension Farm Stress team, and my name is Chai Catalone. I'm an extension educator on the Food, Family, and Communities team based in Elk County. The episodes in our next series will focus on overcoming losses. In today's episode, we'll be talking about a concept that impacts many in the farming world: ambiguous loss. This type of loss doesn't come with the clear cut endings or closure that we typically associate with grief. Instead, it's the kind of loss that lingers in the spaces between uncertainty, ongoing challenges, and shifting realities. For many farmers, ambiguous loss can take many forms, from the unpredictability of the markets to the devastating effects of climate change, or even the emotional toll of generational transitions on the farm. Today, we'll explore how these unseen losses affect the mental health, relationships, and resilience of those in agriculture. I'd like to welcome today Jake Jacobs, the coordinator for the Northeast Cooperative Extension cohort of the Farm and Ranch Assistance Network. She's going to help our listeners understand what ambiguous loss looks like in agriculture and how we can support those who are experiencing it. So let's get started with the conversation. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? Jake, thank you for taking time to talk with me today.
Hi, Chai, and thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this. My own background is from a farm. I had a dairy farm. It's one of those where we had to make the decision to either continue farming and doing all the work, or expanding, or selling out. And this is one of the farms that about 30 years ago we opted to sell the dairy herd. My work in agriculture has been fairly lengthy. I started in Cornell Extension many years ago. More recently, I worked for the University of Vermont. I am located in Vermont. And during the time that I was doing programming on risk management education, the FARSAN funding came available, and the programming on farm and ranch stress assistance began with funding through the University of Delaware. And I've continued. I'm now the coordinator for the Northeast cohort that covers program activities through extension in the 12 New England states and Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Jake. The FARSAN work has been so critical and important in helping our farming families. Can relate a lot to what you shared. I myself come from a background in farming, and we have a family farm that was a dairy farm until about the late 90s. And that difficult decision that your family was faced with, we also were. And the decision was made to sell the dairy herd and make the transition to beef and sheep farming. So I can relate and understand the loss that comes with making that hard decision. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your personal background. Can you?
Apparently, we are farming kindred spirits in some ways.
Yes, definitely. As it seems like most people who end up working in this field are. It's the passion that they grew up with or were part of that drives the work they do.
I think it's also an understanding because you've been involved, and being able to reach out to those who are still farming, who are still doing the work with a level of understanding and awareness that someone who hasn't come through that may find more difficult to relate to.
Yes, I agree 100% with that. How would you define ambiguous loss in the context of what we're talking about here with the farming community, and maybe talk a little bit about common experiences that farmers face that lead to that type of loss?
That's a great question. Ambiguous loss is a little unique framework unto itself. When someone experiences a loss that has a clear ending, such as perhaps the death of a loved one, or the end of a business, or something like that, where there's a clear end point, the normal anticipation is that you're going to move into some period of grief and processing and then move forward. In cases of ambiguous loss, there is not that clear ending. So, for example, I was recently visiting a farm where they had uh, a, a, an aging parent whose cognitive challenges were increasing. So the person was still physically present, but the emotional and and mental skills that this person used to provide within the family setting and the farm setting were no longer available. So there wasn't really a clear transition time, and the family was struggling greatly with that. That's just one example. In the farming community, many producers are looking at declines and changes in their markets. And it may be because of some climate events that have occurred. It could be other marketing things that are out of their control. And again, there are not clear events that allow you some closure on them. It's ongoing. So you're suffering an extent of loss that's ongoing. And that's the type of ambiguous loss that we're looking at in farming. It can be related to family members or employees. It can be related to the operation itself. In many cases, the key owner or manager of the farm is the one who's burdening a lot of the expectations for success of the operation and enterprise and for the legacy of the farm. And these can all be complicated by a sense of loss through that process.
Thank you. That was helpful. I appreciate that you shared with our listeners some examples to help them be able to process this type of loss that we're talking about. Our podcast, this series is Overcoming Loss. So we know that it's important that we need to understand what is ambiguous loss so that when we understand it, can you maybe tell our listeners about how we can support our farming community and individuals who are experiencing this type of loss and maybe some strategies to help them as they work through it?
Absolutely. And that's, of course, the most critical piece is how do you move forward when these obstacles are in your path? One of the things that I urge farmers, and frankly, anyone who's experiencing ambiguous loss to do, is first take some time to see what's going on and acknowledge. Typically, when these circumstances are coming up and starting to impede what you're trying to accomplish, it's really easy to say, well, I'll just dig in, I'll just work harder, I'll just put in more time, I'll just. And frankly, that's just putting a lot of energy in a place that may not really be able to resolve what you're experiencing. If you are able to, I really encourage farm families in those operations to talk to each other and bring this stuff to the surface. It's very hard to do. I'm definitely not making light of that. But until you start to address all these peripheral things that are contributing and the level of loss that you're experiencing, it's really hard to change anything. I encourage folks to talk with their family. They may have some supportive community groups. They may have a spiritual or faith community, and there may be a clergy person that they can talk to. They may have some colleagues, other farmers in the community who they're close to. In, in any event, find somebody that you can start to speak with. We know that talking is one of the first ways to start to disarm the things that are stressing you. Another thing that I would strongly encourage is reach out to service providers who can help you, like the Penn State Farm Stress Team. There are people there who are skilled and knowledgeable and can help make referrals if you're needing additional assistance, either with mediation or counseling. But it's really important to start bringing this up. I would also like to bring attention to two things that are very specific for farmers related to stress management. One, Chai, I think that you can address this better, to refer farmers to local resources that are available specifically for farmers and their families. And the other thing is there are members of the Penn State Farm Stress team that recently went through very specific training to find ways to help farmers deal with this. And a changing way of life curriculum is available for farmers and their families. And I really encourage folks to reach out for that. Another piece that I need to bring up, I feel very strongly about. There are many people who are educators and advisors and consultants who visit farmers all the time. You have other business to do when you're at the farm. But over time, we become friends. We are meeting with these farmers and their families, and we know a lot about their operations and their families. If you see some things that concern you, please don't drive away. Talk to that farmer. At least offer some information that will help get them a referral to assistance that may support them as they go through these changes.
Thank you, Jake. That was excellent advice. I love the piece where you spoke to the importance of stepping back a minute and identifying the stress and the cycle that you're in. And then the most important piece, to start talking about it, that you don't have to go through this alone, that there's others that are here that want to support and want to help you. And you spoke of some great resources, particularly, please know that the Penn State Farms Extension Farm Stress team is here for you. There are also some really other great resources that we want all farmers and those who interact with farmers daily or occasionally even to be aware of. And that's in Pennsylvania. There's the AgriStress Hotline. And this hotline's unique because the counselors that work at this particular hotline are all trained to be aware of what are these unique stressors and challenges that farmers and farm families are facing, so that they can have a greater understanding and offering support when talking with the farmer or the family members. So that number to contact 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is 833-897-2474. I'm going to repeat it one more time, 833-897-2474. So any farmers in Pennsylvania, please feel free to reach out to this number. Also, I think that it's extremely important that everyone's aware of the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline 988, that anywhere in the country you can access immediate help and support by calling 988 or texting 988 or even chatting online to 988. It's a resource that is available to help you through these challenging moments. So we really encourage people to not be afraid to take that leap and call in for help. It's not a sign of failure or weakness. In fact, it's a sign of strength to reach out in time and need, to lean on others. I know, Jake, you talked a lot about that, looking into your community for the supports. And I think that's really excellent advice. Jake, is there anything you'd like to end with today? You brought up
Yes,
some really great points. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with?
yes, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to reach out to farmers who may be stressed, because farming is a stressful job. Under the best of circumstances, it's hard. But I want to remind you that you might have a check engine light on your tractor, but there's none on you. And the single most important asset on your farm is you.
That is a wonderful way to wrap up this episode here. Um, Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. And hopefully, everyone that was listening can remember to check yourself and see where you're at and get help early on and not wait till it's a crisis. know that you have these hotlines. These are available for you, whether it's early on or it is at that crisis point. There's people that are here and want to help you. So please remember, you can follow all of our episodes with Penn State Extension at extension.psu.edu. You can look for farm stress programs, our podcasts, and also you'll find the hotlines we mentioned today. Jake, thank you for being here, and we hope to talk to you again in the future.
Thank you.